She looks strong, she acts like she doesn't need anyone, but inside, she's quietly breaking. Older women carry stories you'll never see on their faces, stories of survival, sacrifice, and silent heartbreak. They've raised families, held broken relationships together, and picked themselves up again and again. But here's the shocking truth. Despite all their strength, they're often the easiest prey. Yes, you heard that right. Not because they're weak, but because the world never taught them how to protect their own hearts. In this powerful video, we're revealing the 6 real reasons why older women become the most vulnerable targets, emotionally, mentally, and even romantically. And trust me, the truth will shock you, break your heart, and open your eyes all at once. Whether you're a woman who's lived through this pain, or a man who wants to truly understand it, you need to see this. Because the game isn't always about looks, money, or age. Sometimes it's about deep emotional wounds people carry quietly. Stay with me till the end, because what you're about to discover could change how you see love, connection, and emotional manipulation forever. Point 1. Emotional loneliness is often hidden behind strength. At first glance, older women appear emotionally independent, strong, resilient, and in control of their lives. Years of personal struggles, professional responsibilities, and emotional ups and downs have trained them to wear an armor of strength. But behind this composed exterior often lies an emotional void, a quiet, aching loneliness that's hidden so well, even their closest friends may not see it. This type of loneliness isn't loud. It doesn't come from being physically alone. It stems from not being emotionally understood. These women may have been caregivers their entire lives, giving love, time, and effort to others, but rarely receiving it in return. Over the years, many have silently accepted emotional neglect or felt invisible in their own relationships. Now, enter someone who seems to finally get them. A person who listens, pays attention, praises them, and makes them feel alive again. That emotional connection, something they craved for so long, becomes a powerful hook. And unfortunately, those with manipulative intentions know how to play this game well. They don't come with demands. They come with warmth, affection, and the illusion of safety. And in that illusion, the emotional walls of these women start to crumble. They don't fall because they're foolish. They fall because they're starved for connection. And when you've gone years without truly being seen, the first person who looks at you with intention feels like a lifeline. But often, it's a trap in disguise, because that depth of emotional hunger can blind you to danger, especially when love or validation is dangled like a prize. Point 2. They often settle. Due to fear of starting over. One of the harshest truths about aging is the pressure it puts on personal decisions. Many older women carry an invisible weight, the idea that time is running out, that starting over in your 40s, 50s, or 60s is too risky, too lonely, or simply not worth the hassle. So instead of aiming for happiness, many settle for comfort. But comfort can be a dangerous illusion, especially when it keeps someone stuck in a relationship that's emotionally draining. This mindset often comes from experience. After failed marriages, betrayals, or years of single parenthood, older women begin prioritizing stability over everything else. Financial security, family structure, or even community status become more important than personal joy. And toxic partners understand this. They know these women won't walk away easily, so they offer just enough to keep them hooked, just enough affection, attention, or consistency to avoid being questioned. The fear of being alone at an older age is real. The dating pool seems smaller. Social stigmas feel heavier. So when someone finally comes along and shows interest, they might think, "This is probably the best I'll get." That belief becomes dangerous. They begin tolerating things they would never accept in their younger years: verbal manipulation, emotional distance, or a lack of mutual respect. But they convince themselves it's better than nothing. Sadly, the longer they stay, the harder it becomes to leave. They forget that loneliness in a relationship feels far worse than being single, but fear convinces them otherwise. This is how manipulators win, not by force, but by feeding into fears that already exist. Point 3. They crave emotional relevance in a youth-obsessed society. We live in a world that idolizes youth. Media, fashion, entertainment. Everywhere you look, the focus is on young, vibrant, flawless individuals. Older women are often made to feel irrelevant, as if their value declines with every passing year. This societal rejection doesn't just affect how others treat them, it affects how they see themselves. When someone treats them as desirable, when someone listens, compliments their thoughts, or tells them they're beautiful, it feels like rediscovering a part of themselves they thought was lost forever. And that feeling can be intoxicating. Not because they're shallow, but because for once they feel like they matter again. But here's the danger. Manipulators and players use this craving for relevance like a fishing rod. They throw out bait, charming messages, passionate compliments, "You still got it" texts. And when these women bite, not because they're foolish, but because they're human, the trap slowly closes in. What starts as validation turns into dependency. Suddenly, they're dressing differently, responding faster, giving more. Not because they're desperate, but because someone made them feel alive again. That feeling becomes addictive. And when the manipulator pulls away, the withdrawal hits harder than expected. The truth is, being seen after years of invisibility can feel magical, but when that attention is fake, it does more damage than being ignored ever could. This is why emotional relevance, while deeply necessary, must come from within, not from someone who may disappear the moment their game is over. Point 4. They often prioritize others over themselves. Older women are often natural caregivers. They've spent decades putting others before themselves, raising children, supporting husbands, looking after aging parents, or holding families together. Over time, this becomes their identity, the one who nurtures, fixes, and sacrifices. But in relationships, this selflessness becomes a double-edged sword. Manipulative individuals quickly identify this trait and play into it. They present themselves as wounded or in need of healing. They share sob stories and talk about how no one understands them, knowing the woman's heart will respond. Suddenly, she's not just his partner, she's his therapist, his rescuer, his emotional crutch. Her own needs pushed aside. Because every time she tries to speak up, he reminds her of his pain. And she, being empathetic and nurturing, lets it go again and again. Over time, she begins to believe that love equals sacrifice, that her role is to give more, tolerate more, understand more, but she doesn't realize she's becoming emotionally drained in the process. And manipulators thrive in that dynamic, because as long as she's fixing him, she won't notice he's not giving anything back. What makes this worse is the guilt. Women raised in certain cultures or generations were taught that being a good partner means never giving up. So they stay, they give, they bend until they break, thinking that maybe one day he'll appreciate it. But appreciation doesn't come, and the more she gives, the more she's taken for granted. Point 5. Their emotional baggage can cloud judgment. By the time someone reaches their 40s, 50s or beyond, they've lived through many emotional storms, heartbreaks, betrayal, abuse, abandonment or deep disappointment. These scars don't vanish with time. They just become quieter, buried beneath responsibilities and routines. But when they enter a new relationship, those old wounds often whisper louder than reason. They may think, this feels familiar, or maybe this time it will be different. But that familiarity is dangerous. It's not love, it's a trauma loop. And manipulators instinctively pick up on this. They'll ask just enough questions to identify her emotional pain, then mirror it. Pretend they understand. Pretend they've been through the same. Suddenly, he becomes the one who gets her, and that emotional connection makes her overlook logic. She may ignore red flags, make excuses for bad behavior, or even convince herself she's being too sensitive. Why? Because deep down, she wants this time to be different. She wants to heal. She wants to rewrite her past with someone who finally treats her right. But predators don't want to heal. They want to control. And the more emotionally open she is, the more they use her past against her. They'll say things like, "You're just afraid because of what your ex did," or "Don't compare me to your past." And little by little, she questions herself instead of him. This emotional fog clouds her judgment, not because she's weak, but because she's desperate to believe that love still exists. But in chasing healing through another person, she forgets the healing must start with her. Point 6. They're often too forgiving, hoping for change. One of the most admirable qualities of older women is their capacity to forgive. They've seen people fail and rise again. They know life isn't black and white. This wisdom makes them patient, but it also makes them vulnerable. They believe in growth, in second chances, in giving someone the benefit of the doubt. And manipulative partners exploit this to the core. They'll mess up, apologize, cry, promise to change, and these women, wanting to believe in redemption, will stay. They'll justify it by saying, "He's been through a lot," or "He's trying, I can see it." But often that trying is just emotional manipulation wearing a mask. He behaves for a week, then reverts. And the cycle continues. What makes it worse is the hope. Hope that one day the version of him they saw in the beginning will come back. That the man who made them laugh, held their hand, and whispered promises wasn't just an illusion. But hope without evidence becomes self-sabotage. And the longer they stay, the more they lose pieces of themselves. They start tiptoeing around his moods, suppressing their needs, and eventually they become shadows of the vibrant women they once were. Forgiveness is a beautiful thing, but only when it's offered to someone who's actually changing. Otherwise, it becomes a tool for emotional destruction. Older women must learn the difference between hope and illusion, between growth and repetition. The truth is, older women are not weak, foolish, or easy. They are powerful souls who have walked through fire, endured heartbreak, and stood tall in silence. But even the strongest hearts have cracks, and sometimes those cracks become entry points for manipulation, especially when disguised as love, attention, or emotional safety. What we must understand is that vulnerability is not a flaw. It's a human need. The need to be seen, heard, desired, and loved doesn't go away with age. It simply becomes quieter, more sacred, and when someone finally touches those emotions, it feels like magic. But not all who offer affection come with pure intentions. Some arrive only to take your energy, your heart, your time, and leave you emptier than before. That's why awareness is your armor, boundaries are your shield, and self-worth is your greatest defense. If you are an older woman watching this, remember, you are not behind in life. You're not too late. You're not unlovable. You do not have to settle, tolerate, or shrink yourself just to keep someone beside you. You've earned the right to protect your peace. You deserve love that heals, not love that hurts. And if you know a woman walking this silent path, send her this video. Let her know she's not alone. Let her know that her story matters. If this video touched your heart or opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel for more deep, real-life-based content that empowers and protects. Like this video to let YouTube know it's worth spreading. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. Your story could be the mirror someone else needs to heal. Together, let's build a space where strength and vulnerability coexist, where no woman at any age has to feel like prey ever again.